Hello and welcome back to the SuperDoc Insights. I am Dr. Krishna Bharat, and in today's episode we shall dive deep into what I like to call the acute versus the chronic conundrum. It's a concept that shows up every day in my work in the ICU, but also in life, whether it's dealing with critical patients or looking at our own habits. In medicine, we see two kinds of conditions. Acute cases like the myocardial infarction, a pulmonary embolism, or even a tension pneumothorax. They hit us suddenly and demand immediate action. These are life or death situations where the doctor's experience and knowledge are tested in split second decisions. Then there are chronic conditions, the CLDs, the CKDs, the chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. They don't force you to act immediately, but they slowly poison the body over time. These conditions can go unnoticed for years, adapting within the body until one day a sudden exacerbation or a deterioration occurs. Just like in life, we often get caught up in the urgency of acute problems while neglecting the chronic habits that slowly chip away at our well being. Today, I want to walk you through this analogy, share my experiences in the ICU, and reflect on how chronic habits can be just as dangerous as those acute crises we face. In the ICU, like I said, I see two very contrasting kinds of cases. There are those acute conditions, heart attacks, tension pneumothorax, and pulmonary embolisms that arrive with a sense of immediate urgency. They don't need much of an introduction. These diseases flash upon us, forcing quick decisions. In these moments, I rely on all the medical education and experience I have gained to make life saving decisions on the spot. On the other hand, there are patients with chronic conditions. Take CLDs, CKDs, or chronic bronchitis for example. They don't press you to take immediate action, and on the surface, everything may appear stable. I have seen patients with chronic bronchitis living with PCO2 levels between 100 and even 120, talking normally, while other patients with acute airway issues start deteriorating with PCO2 levels at just 50 or 60. The human body is truly magnificent in its ability to adapt, just that it needs some time to adapt. But that adaptation doesn't mean everything is fine. The patient may seem stable, but in reality, their cognitive functions, memory, and even emotional regulations are being affected by toxic buildups. Whether it's the ammonia and the mercaptans in the CLD or the uremia in the CKD, the effects are slow but dangerous, creeping up until one day they are in a full blown crisis. And this is where the analogy to life comes in. It's the same with chronic habits we condition ourselves to accept. Those habits we don't notice because they don't create an immediate crisis. But over time, they slowly poison our progress. Let's take a step back from the ICU and talk about life. In our daily lives, just like in medicine, we often focus on the acute, those crises that demand our immediate attention. Maybe it's a deadline at work, a financial emergency, or a personal conflict. These situations feel urgent, and we have no choice but to act on them. But what about those chronic habits we have been ignoring? The relentless scrolling of the Instagram stories, the constant procrastination, the stress eating, or the way we beat ourselves with negative self talks. These habits don't seem dangerous in the moment, but over time they take a toll on us mentally, emotionally, and physically. Yes, we adapt. We adjust to the constant distractions, the unhealthy coping mechanisms, and the self criticism. But just like the patients with a PCO2 of 120 who seems fine on the surface, these chronic habits slowly deteriorate our well being. Over time, they erode our cognitive sharpness, our emotional stability, and even our ability to be in control of our own lives. And just like chronic diseases, one day they manifest in a breakdown, a crisis, where we realize just how much damage has been done. I have been there. I have fallen into that trap of a chronic habit that over time slowly poisoned my growth. There were times in my life when I would procrastinate on tasks waiting for that last minute adrenaline rush to kick in. I would skip workouts because I convinced myself there was something more important to do. I would let overthinking and self doubt cloud my ability to make decisions. I adapted to these habits, thinking I could manage. Just like patients with chronic conditions, like how they adapt to their diseases, the truth is, my cognitive abilities, my emotional stability, and my overall sense of well being were slowly being chipped away. I was functioning, but I wasn't thriving. I was stuck in mediocrity, and I didn't even realize it. It wasn't until I started to introspect that I understood just how deeply these habits had conditioned me. And when I tried to change them, the withdrawal hit hard. It's like breaking an addiction. I realized that the key to overcoming these chronic habits wasn't to make drastic changes overnight, but to build small positive habits, what I call micro habits. What I have found is that the best way to break free from chronic habits is to introduce a small manageable change, a micro habit that don't overwhelm you but slowly start to shift your life in the right direction. If you try to overhaul everything at once, the withdrawal will be too strong and you will end up feeling stuck in a bigger hole than before. But if you take control and start making those small changes, maybe it's committing to 5 minutes of exercise a day or cutting down your social media use by just 10 minutes, you begin to shift your momentum. The magic of micro habits is that they start small, but they create a ripple effect. Over time, those small wins add up. You start to see progress. And as you celebrate those little victories, you build confidence. You begin to see the change is possible. And slowly you replace the toxic, chronic habits with the positive ones that propel you forward. So here's where I want to leave you today. Just as in medicine, where chronic conditions slowly poison the body until a crisis hits, in life, chronic habits can slowly poison our potential. I encourage you to take some time to reflect. What chronic habits in your life are you holding back to? What daily actions or thoughts are quietly eroding your physical, mental, or emotional energies? And more importantly, what small positive habits can you introduce today to begin reversing those patterns? Remember, it's not about making drastic changes overnight. It's about creating micro habits that lead to lasting growth. You won't see instant results, but if you stay consistent and appreciate your efforts, you will create a ripple effect that transforms the way you live. Thank you for tuning in to the Superdoc Insights. I hope today's episode helped you reflect on those chronic habits that might be holding you back and inspired you to start creating small but powerful changes in your life. As always, stay balanced, stay healthy, and remember, true growth starts with those habits we have been ignoring. Until next time, take care.